As I'm sure you've already heard, the first test screening for Halloween Kills happened here in LA the other day. Universal and Blumhouse invited about 50 fans to check out a near final cut of the movie. Today we're going to talk about the impressions that came out of that screening, and I guess just test screenings in general and how much stock you should put into them. For those of you who are like, what the hell is a test screening? They've actually been a thing for a really long time, but movie sites didn't really start reporting on them until a couple of years ago. They really started to become a bigger news source when they started doing them for movies like Batman vs. Superman or Justice League, because people wanted to know what was going on with those bigger movies. So when a movie studio like Blumhouse, or Universal in this case, has a near final cut of a movie like Halloween Kills, and they want it to be as good as it possibly can be, and they have a lot of lead time before it comes out, they'll invite a few people to come see it really early so they can collect data on what scenes work, what scenes don't, maybe figure out what scenes they need to go back and shoot new footage for. It's a really valuable tool for filmmakers. Usually for test screenings, the studio will also invite way more people than they need so they can go through the entire group and pick out people from certain demographics they really want to get feedback from. So in the case of a sequel like Halloween Kills, they'll probably take 5 men, 5 women, 5 people who love Halloween and are diehard fans, 5 people who are just like, I like Halloween, I could see a new movie, 5 people who have never heard of it, and maybe 5 people who hated Halloween 2018, because all of their opinions are valid, because at the end of the day, the goal is to make as much money as possible, so they're going to do their best to please everyone. The big difference here between this test screening and a bunch of other ones I've heard of is that Blumhouse actually let people know beforehand that it was going to be a screening of Halloween Kills. What usually happens with screenings like this is that to avoid bias or a bunch of super fans showing up and lying about how much they like the movie that's being shown, which is definitely what happened with this screening, by the way, after talking to a few people who were there, they'll make up a title or they'll use the working title. So for this test screening, they would have used Mob Rules. I remember with Child's Play 2019, I think they used the Caslin Project as the working title for the test screening, which obviously by that point everyone knew it was Child's Play, so the same sort of thing happened. I remember so many details leaked out of that screening because everyone who went knew it was a Child's Play screening because they didn't do a very good job of hiding the title. And since they let everyone know in advance that this was going to be a Halloween Kills screening, the page where you could sign up to get a ticket spread like wildfire online. It was on Twitter, it was on the official subreddit, people were sending it to me left and right on Instagram, and because of that, people were flying out to LA to try and get into the screening. I know a lot of people actually showed up at like 10:30 in the morning to wait outside at this Regal Theater all day for a 7:30 p.m. screening, only to be told, no, we don't need you, sorry, go home, because it's not a first come, first serve type deal. I actually saw quite a few people who were turned away complaining online, acting like Blumhouse somehow wronged them in this scenario when this was not a fan screening. This was not a screening meant for a bunch of super fans to come out and see the movie 10 months early so they can go and spoil it on the subreddit, which is exactly what happened. This was a screening for Blumhouse to collect data on the movie so that they can make it as good as it can possibly be so those fans can actually see it when it comes out and enjoy it. That's the goal here. It's not to make a bunch of fans happy. As kind of harsh as that sounds, that's just the reality of it. Anyway, by and large, test screenings are a good thing because they help the studio make the best movie possible at the end of the day. Halloween 2018 is actually a great example of this. I know when the test screening happened, a lot of people acted like that movie had a horrible test screening and everyone hated it, but in reality, one guy rushed out of the screening to say he hated the ending, and a lot of different websites picked up on that. Like, that guy was definitely looking for his 5 seconds of fame, and unfortunately, he got it. In reality, most people who saw the movie said they absolutely loved it, they just thought the ending was a little bit rushed and it left things too ambiguous. So Blumhouse turned around, went back and reshot the ending. And while yeah, it is a little bit messy, from what it sounds like, it's a lot better than what we would have seen. On the other hand, Child's Play 2019 had a pretty negative reaction to its test screening, and they didn't really change a whole lot, and lo and behold, we got a pretty mediocre movie at the end of the day. Thankfully though, that doesn't seem to be the case for Halloween Kills, because from talking to people who were actually there and reading reactions on Reddit and Twitter, it seems like the reactions are 100% positive, which honestly, I don't think I've ever heard of that happening. Something I already mentioned that really surprised me is the fact that even though this movie is coming out in 10 months, the cut that Blumhouse showed was actually near final. They had everything from the visual effects to the CGI touch-ups to all the coverage they needed. All of it was in the movie. The only thing that was actually missing was the score, but people didn't have to just sit there and watch a movie with no music. They just undercut it with the music from Halloween 2018, or so I hear. One tweet that was going around really early said that this was like Halloween on acid, and that while it does have a lot of callbacks to the original movies, it remains its own thing, which is awesome. Oh, and they also said it's a great mix of Halloween, Halloween 2, Halloween 2018, and Halloween 4, interestingly. Now, I really like that movie, so that makes me happy, but it is still weird that they threw that movie into the mix as well. So yeah, it's safe to say that if you're a Halloween superfan who got into this screening, you probably enjoyed the movie. My favorite detail I've read so far yet, though, is the fact that they are going back to the blue color grading of 1978 instead of the ambery orange color grading they used in Halloween 2018. I mentioned a few times that I assumed they would use that blue color grading for the flashbacks but stick to the orange color grading for the modern day stuff because they established that in Halloween 2018, but as it turns out, they are just going for it and using the blue all the way throughout the entire movie. And I think that makes sense because it's going to give the whole thing a Halloween 2 feel, because Halloween 2 has a nice cool blue wash over the entire movie and it looks incredible. And they are bringing back a lot of details that were taken out by removing Halloween 2 from the canon, like of course Haddonfield Memorial Hospital, so bringing back in that blue color grading is just a smart decision in my opinion. Another interesting detail I heard from a few different sources, which again, take with a grain of salt because all of this is very hyperbolic, is that every character from the main cast all the way down to the smallest side character is fleshed out, well written, and every actor in this movie gives it their absolute all. I thought it was funny that a few people actually reached out directly to tell me that, because in my videos I've been saying that bringing back all of these different characters from the original movie, like Sheriff Brackett, Tommy and Lindsay, and Nurse Marion Chambers, would kind of make it feel like Halloween the Ride, but they were like, no, every actor in this movie is doing an incredible job and every character is fleshed out. Which I remember saying that I felt like that could happen because David Gordon Green and Danny McBride are such great character writers. So now that they've had a success with Halloween 2018, they've got a bigger budget this time around and they have more leeway to say, hey, no, we're fleshing out Cameron. No, we're fleshing out Lonnie. We're gonna make sure all these different characters who are kind of playing second fiddle in Halloween 2018 or maybe even Halloween 1978 get their chance to shine. Kyle Richards in particular is one person people are saying did an incredible job, and while that is a tiny bit of a surprise to me, I am excited to hear that she'll have some behind the scenes stuff on an upcoming episode of Real Housewives, so we'll get to actually see what she was doing behind the scenes on Halloween Kills. So I'm gonna have to actually watch that show for the first time in my life, and I'm kind of excited about it. And speaking of good writing, a lot of people are saying that this screening finally confirmed that that script that leaked a couple weeks ago is fake. And man, I wish one of those Halloween YouTubers went through a ton of work and trouble to reach out to people involved with the movie to, definitively prove that it was fake. That would have been awesome. Anyway, an adjective I've seen used a lot to describe this movie so far is scary, and that's mainly from Halloween superfans. People who have seen these movies hundreds of times. So if they're calling this sequel scary, I'm inclined to believe that yes, it is actually terrifying, and I love that. Some other smaller details we kind of already knew have been confirmed, like this movie does have a lot of different kills in it, and Michael is way more brutal than he was in Halloween 2018. He actually has the biggest body count so far in the series. That's what some people are saying. Another thing people are saying is that Michael is back to being a trickster this time around like he was in the original movie and unlike he was in Halloween 2018, and I've seen that criticism a couple times of the last movie and I honestly can't get on board with it. Michael was definitely a trickster in Halloween 2018. I don't know where this criticism is coming from. There's of course the scene when he sprinkles the teeth over the bathroom stall at the gas station, then he puts a ghost sheet over Vicky to leave her for Hawkins to find, and finally at the end of the movie he makes a bait trap for Ray by carving a cop's head into a jack-o'-lantern and putting his flashlight in it. That's all very in line with what he does in the original movie. I don't understand why people were so elitist and critical of the kills in that movie as if they weren't in line with the original, other than the fact that they were a little more gory and a little more brutal. But it seems like Michael is going to be more brutal and more gory this time around, and people are liking it. And I think the reason for that is apparently there's a couple scenes that tie directly into the flashback scenes, like Michael recreates some kills from the original movie. So if that's enough to get people on board with the more brutal Michael, I guess I'm fine with it. And according to a few Reddit posts, there's one big character comeback that hasn't been spoiled yet, and a few people were saying that they thought it was going to be Danielle Harris as Jamie Lloyd, and I can confirm that is not the case, but I will say without spoiling anything that the character coming back makes me very, very happy. I'm not even gonna say which movie they're from, but man, I am glad this character is back. That's all I'm gonna say. And speaking of spoilers, if you don't want the movie spoiled for you, stay as far away as you possibly can from the Halloween movie subreddit. subreddit. I don't know what the mods deal is over there, but they're letting people who went to the screening spoil the entire movie, even though they signed an NDA that said they wouldn't spoil it, specifically on social media sites like Reddit under the threat of legal action. In fact, the one guy who posted the entire plot of the movie had a lawyer contact him and he had to remove the post. So yeah, I would stay away from that subreddit. And if you went to the screening, even if people are asking you for spoilers, don't give it to them. Getting that stuff out there means that those people are going to go on YouTube and start arguing with people and leaving comments full of spoilers and ruining the movie for people who genuinely don't want it ruined for them. It just happened with The Rise of Skywalker, and that sucked for a lot of people. So don't be a dick. At the end of the day though, I would really be careful about how much stock you actually put into test screening reactions for a few reasons. It should be obvious by now that a lot of Halloween superfans got into this screening, and of course those are the people who are going to want to go on the subreddit and lord it over everyone else that they saw this movie 10 months early, and they get to be the ones to say, yeah, this movie's awesome, it'll be sweet when you get to see it in 10 months. You know, they want to act like it's great even if it might not be the best thing they've ever seen, like they're making it out to be. And for some reason people get pissed when they hear this, but don't let your expectations get the better of you. Overhyping a movie is a real thing that can happen, so if you're walking into this expecting the best Halloween sequel you've ever seen, there's a very real chance you could be disappointed even if it is the best Halloween sequel you've ever seen. If you've just been hyping yourself up for like 10 months, almost a year to see a movie, and then it doesn't live up to those astronomical expectations you make in your head, you're gonna leave disappointed, and I don't want that for anyone watching these videos. We're all obviously really excited for Halloween Kills, so ruining it for ourselves just doesn't seem like the smart thing to do. Anyway guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know what you think of the reactions to the screening down in the comments below. Also, don't spoil anything for anyone. If you do, I will delete your comment and ban you from commenting on my channel ever again. So just don't get yourself in that situation, and don't be a dick. No one likes that. Anyway guys, my name is Jimmy Champane, and I'll see you in the next one. Shape on.